They didn't just doubt him, they mocked him openly and without shame. In front of a packed arena of 500 fighters, coaches, and champions, the laughter was loud and cutting. At the center stood a man who had not lost a single match in 6 full years, a national champion who was both feared and respected. He looked at Bruce Lee with a smirk and declared, "You don't belong here." The crowd reacted instantly, some clapped in agreement, others shouted support, and many simply waited in suspense to see what would happen next. Bruce remained motionless. There was no anger, no visible reaction, just absolute stillness. The champion moved closer. "If you're really who you say you are," he taunted, "then prove it." What followed lasted less than 7 seconds, and when it was over, the arena was completely silent. But to fully grasp why that moment shifted the entire atmosphere, you need to understand everything that led up to it. This was not merely a challenge, it was a calculated act of public degradation. The undefeated champion was certain he had already secured his victory. He could not have been more mistaken. 3 hours earlier, Madison Square Garden, New York City, November 14, 1970. The National Karate Championships had brought together 500 of America's finest traditional martial artists under one roof. These were black belts who had dedicated decades to their craft, coaches responsible for producing champions, and former title holders observing the next generation compete. This was the premier event, the tournament that defined careers. Victory here cemented a dojo's reputation. Defeat sent you home knowing your exact standing. Bruce Lee was never supposed to be part of this, not as a competitor, nor even as a spectator. However, the tournament organizers had made a divisive decision. They invited Bruce to perform a special exhibition during the evening session, intending to offer the crowd something different. The announcement came that morning during the opening ceremony. Bruce Lee, known for his role in the Green Hornet, a Hollywood martial artist who had publicly criticized traditional training, would demonstrate his Jeet Kune Do approach during the finals. The reaction was immediate and split. Some competitors were genuinely intrigued. They had heard about his unique training methods and his sparring sessions with boxers and judokas. They wanted to see his skills firsthand, but many others saw it as an insult. This was a traditional karate tournament, one that honored proper forms, techniques, and decades of refined practice. Bruce, however, had openly dismissed classical forms as organized despair and suggested that most traditional techniques were ineffective in real combat. He was challenging everything this tournament represented, and yet he was invited to demonstrate. Bruce sat quietly on a folding chair near the main ring, dressed in plain black training clothes, no gi, no belt, no markers of rank. Around him, competitors warmed up in their white uniforms, their colored belts representing years of disciplined study in Shotokan, Goju-Ryu, and other styles. The contrast was unmistakable. Bruce looked like he had wandered in from a completely different event. He could hear the whispers and feel the stares. Skepticism hung in the air. That's him. He looks smaller than I imagined, maybe 57, 130 pounds. My sensei says he disrespects the traditional arts. A Hollywood martial artist, more choreography than real combat. Bruce absorbed it all without responding. He simply waited. He had been invited, and he saw this as an opportunity not to disparage tradition, but to demonstrate that martial arts could evolve and improve by questioning assumptions. Yet the atmosphere made one thing clear: he was not truly welcome here. The matches continued through the afternoon, featuring hundreds of competitors across dozens of divisions. The skill level was genuinely impressive. These were dedicated practitioners who had invested years in training. Bruce observed closely, analyzing techniques and knotting patterns. He respected their ability while recognizing the limitations his own training had taught him to identify. Around 4 p.m., something shifted. Tommy the Cobra Chen stepped onto the mat for his semifinal match, and the entire arena's energy changed. Conversations ceased, competitors moved closer to the ring, and coaches stood at attention. Tommy Chen was a legend: 6 years, 84 consecutive victories, 0 losses. He had won 4 national titles and 2 international medals. His reverse punch was considered the fastest in tournament karate, and his technical precision was flawless. He was the embodiment of what every competitor aspired to become: undefeated, untouchable, the pinnacle of traditional karate. Standing at 61 and 195 pounds, he was perfectly conditioned. His opponent, a talented state champion, barely lasted 90 seconds before Tommy's signature technique scored cleanly and the judges' flags went up simultaneously. The crowd erupted in applause and admiration. Tommy bowed to his opponent, the judges, and the audience. But as he exited the ring, his eyes locked onto Bruce, and he stopped. The smile that spread across his face was not friendly. It was the smile of someone who had just spotted a perfect opportunity to settle a score. He walked directly toward Bruce, and the crowd noticed. Conversations died down and attention shifted. Tommy stopped 5 feet away. "So you're Bruce Lee," he said, his voice carrying across the sudden silence. "The Hollywood guy who's going to teach us about martial arts tonight?" Bruce stood slowly and politely. "I'm here to demonstrate some training methods, different approaches. I'm not here to teach anyone anything they don't want to learn." Tommy's smile widened. "Right. Because traditional karate, the karate that's produced champions for decades, isn't good enough anymore. We need Hollywood to show us the way." Scattered laughter rippled through the crowd, though not everyone joined in. Bruce responded calmly, "I didn't say traditional karate wasn't good. I said all martial arts can improve through testing and questioning. That includes what I practice." Tommy stepped closer. "Testing? Questioning? Tell me something. Have you ever competed? Actually competed? Not movie fights or demonstrations, but real competition with real rules." The question hung in the air because everyone knew the answer. Bruce had never competed in traditional tournaments. His philosophy explicitly rejected the limitations of point fighting. He had sparred against practitioners of various styles, but always under different conditions, full contact, minimal rules. But to this crowd, it meant he had never truly tested himself by their standards. Bruce carefully replied, "I've tested my methods against boxers, wrestlers, judokas, and street fighters. Different contexts require different approaches." Tommy's voice dripped with contempt. "Different contexts? That's a convenient excuse for avoiding real competition. You criticize what we do, but you've never proven you could succeed at it. You talk about realistic fighting, but you've never stepped into a ring against someone actually trying to score on you." The crowd grew to about 50 fighters, forming a loose circle to witness the confrontation. Some supported Tommy's challenge, others appeared uncomfortable but remained silent. Bruce maintained his composure. "I'm not here to compete. I was invited to demonstrate. If that offends you, take it up with the organizers. I'm not claiming my methods are superior, just different." Tommy pressed harder. "Different purposes, that's what I don't respect. You don't have the courage to test yourself by our standards, yet you're comfortable criticizing us. That's not innovation, that's cowardice dressed up as philosophy." The accusation was sharp. Calling someone a coward in front of 500 martial artists was a direct challenge. Bruce's jaw tightened slightly, the first visible crack in his calm exterior. Tommy saw it and continued, "You know what I think? I think you don't belong here. This is a tournament for real martial artists who test themselves honestly, not for Hollywood actors who play martial artists on TV and then lecture us about what works." Some in the crowd clapped in agreement. Tommy's smile returned. "If you're going to demonstrate tonight, at least have the integrity to demonstrate against someone real, someone who can actually test your methods, someone like me." The challenge was now explicit and public. Bruce looked at Tommy, then at the crowd, then back at the champion standing 6 inches taller and 65 pounds heavier. Backing down would validate Tommy's words. Accepting would mean confronting an undefeated legend. "This isn't what I came here to do," Bruce said quietly. "I'm not trying to prove superiority, I'm trying to share ideas." Tommy's laugh was harsh. "There it is, the retreat. You're comfortable criticizing from a distance, but when challenged directly you hide behind philosophy." He turned to the crowd. "This is why traditional values matter. This is why proper training produces real martial artists, instead of whatever this is." The laughter grew louder, about 30% of the surrounding fighters. It was enough to create genuine humiliation. Bruce stood silently, absorbing the dismissal. If you're watching this unfold and recognizing how an undefeated champion just publicly humiliated Bruce Lee by questioning his courage and legitimacy, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. This moment, where refusing means validating the humiliation, but accepting means confronting someone who hasn't lost in 6 years, becomes the setup for 7 seconds that will silence the entire arena. It will prove the difference between sport excellence and combat effectiveness and demonstrate why assumptions require testing against unexpected capability. Subscribe to see what happens when traditional confidence meets innovation it cannot comprehend, and when public humiliation gets reversed completely. Tommy stood there, smiling, clearly believing he had won the confrontation without needing physical proof. He had challenged Bruce publicly. Bruce had backed down. The crowd had witnessed it. His point was made. The Hollywood martial artist didn't belong at a real tournament. He started to turn away. Then Bruce spoke quietly, "Set up the demonstration." Tommy stopped and turned back. "What, you want to test my methods against yours? Fine, set up the demonstration, you and me. Let everyone see which approach is more effective. No rules, no points, no stopping, just an honest exchange." The crowd's energy shifted immediately. Excitement and anticipation mixed with concern from coaches who recognized this was escalating beyond appropriate boundaries. An older Japanese sensei pushed through. "Gentlemen, this isn't appropriate. Mr. Chen, you have finals tonight." "Mr. Lee, your demonstration is scheduled." "I withdraw from the finals," Tommy interrupted, his eyes locked on Bruce. "This is more important, proving that traditional training produces superior results. Everyone here needs to see that. I'm willing to sacrifice my 7th title for this." The organizer looked distressed. Bruce suggested, "Make it part of the official demonstration. Evening session, main ring, an open demonstration comparing different approaches." "That's what I was invited to do anyway." The organizer hesitated, recognizing the potential disaster, but also the consequences of refusal. "If both participants agree," he said slowly, "and we establish clear parameters to prevent serious injury as an educational demonstration only, then agreed." Tommy and Bruce both agreed. The organizer set it for 8:00 p.m., a 3-minute exhibition, controlled contact. Tommy interrupted, "No protective equipment. If we're honestly testing effectiveness, we test it honestly. That's the point." Bruce nodded. Over the next 4 hours, the confrontation was all anyone discussed. The general consensus heavily favored Tommy. He was a proven champion, undefeated in 6 years, bigger and heavier. Bruce was an unknown quantity, fast on television, sure, but choreographed speed differs from competitive speed. Most expected Bruce to be exposed. Some, maybe 20%, hoped he would surprise everyone, but almost no one expected what actually happened. By 7:45 p.m., Madison Square Garden was at capacity. Bruce entered the main ring first, wearing the same plain black training clothes, no ceremony, no introduction. The crowd reaction was mixed, polite applause, silence, and a few scattered boos from traditional hardliners. Then Tommy entered to an eruption of cheering. Cobra, Cobra, their champion, the embodiment of traditional training. He bowed formally and turned to face Bruce. The size difference was obvious. 6 inches of height, 65 pounds of weight, longer reach, more power. Every physical advantage belonged to Tommy. The referee explained, "Educational demonstration, 3-minute duration, controlled contact." Both waved protective equipment. "Hajime, begin." Tommy moved into a perfect traditional karate stance, front stance, hands positioned for speed and power. Bruce stood casually, hands low, no traditional stance, a mobile arrangement that didn't match any classical form. Tommy advanced carefully, testing distance. His front hand flickered toward Bruce's face. Bruce's head moved slightly, and the probe missed by inches. Tommy tried again, faster, and Bruce slipped it with minimal movement. Then Tommy committed, his signature reverse punch, the technique that had scored 84 victories. His rear hand launched toward Bruce's midsection with championship speed. Bruce didn't block or retreat, he moved forward. His lead hand intercepted Tommy's wrist, trapping it. His footwork closed distance while moving off Tommy's center line. His rear hand launched toward Tommy's exposed face before the punch could retract. The sequence was so fast the crowd couldn't process it in real time. Bruce's strike made contact with Tommy's jaw, controlled impact, no knockout, but Tommy's head snapped back. 2 seconds elapsed. Tommy Chen had just been hit cleanly in the face while executing his most reliable technique. Shock and confusion registered on his face. He reset and attacked again, a front kick. Bruce sidestepped, letting it miss, and his counter moved toward Tommy's exposed ribs. Contact again, 4 seconds total. Tommy had thrown 2 techniques, both had been countered, both counters had landed clean. Tommy's confidence cracked. He tried again, a combination, front hand punch to set up, rear hand reverse punch to score. Bruce intercepted the first punch with a parry, using the redirect to close distance, his lead elbow driving toward Tommy's center line. Tommy abandoned offense for a defensive shell. Bruce didn't pursue, just reset. 6 seconds total. Tommy stood there breathing harder, his perfect stance showing cracks. He'd thrown 5 techniques, all had been countered or neutralized. None had scored. Bruce had struck him 3 times. The crowd was silent, absolute silence. Tommy looked at Bruce with complete cognitive dissonance. He charged forward desperately, abandoning proper form for aggression. Bruce sidestepped and swept Tommy's lead leg. At the exact moment his weight was committed, Tommy crashed to the mat. 7 seconds. The referee stepped forward. "Yame, stop." Tommy lay on the mat, uninjured physically but devastated psychologically, staring at the ceiling. The arena remained silent. Bruce offered his hand to help Tommy up. Tommy stared for a long moment, then accepted. "Your technique is excellent," Bruce said quietly. "Your form is textbook perfect. Your speed is championship level. But you train for sport karate rules. I train for a different context. Neither is absolutely superior, just optimized for different purposes." Tommy whispered. 6 years, 84 fights. Nobody ever tested your assumptions," Bruce completed. "Not their fault or yours. That's what happens when training becomes isolated from other approaches. You're exceptional at what you do, but what you do has limitations, just like my methods." Over the following days, the story spread rapidly through martial arts communities. The narrative forced difficult questions about training methods, assumptions of superiority, and whether traditional techniques needed evolution. Tommy Chen never fought again. He announced his retirement from tournament karate 1 week later, his 84 consecutive victories remaining his final record, undefeated forever, but not in the way he had wanted. 6 months later, Tommy appeared at Bruce's training school, not to challenge, but to learn. He became one of Bruce's most dedicated students, his traditional foundation providing a strong base for understanding the innovative methods that had exposed his limitations. His humility became a model for how traditional practitioners could evolve without abandoning what made their training valuable. Bruce's demonstration became legendary. It illustrated that martial arts could improve through honest testing, that traditional methods had real value but also real limitations, and that confidence without testing creates vulnerability to approaches that challenge your assumptions. The Madison Square Garden incident forced the broader martial arts community to confront questions about effectiveness, evolution, and whether preserving tradition meant avoiding innovation. The conversations that followed were sometimes contentious, but always necessary. That's the truth about what happened when an undefeated champion publicly humiliated Bruce Lee in front of 500 elite martial artists. Not just 7 seconds where innovation defeated tradition, but a complete transformation in understanding. It was proof that questioning assumptions creates growth, and that public humiliation can be reversed when capability exceeds expectations built on incomplete testing. If this story revealed something you needed to understand about public challenges and certainty, about how 7 seconds can destroy 6 years of undefeated confidence, and about the difference between sport excellence and combat effectiveness, subscribe so you never miss these deeper truths. Comment below and tell us where you're watching from and whether this changes how you think about traditional training versus innovative methods. Madison Square Garden, November 1970, 500 witnesses, an undefeated champion, public humiliation, direct challenge, 7 seconds that silenced the entire arena. One man learned that traditional excellence has limits. Another demonstrated that questioning tradition doesn't mean disrespecting it. The laughter stopped, the understanding began, and martial arts evolved through honest confrontation with uncomfortable truths.